hopefully you can see the presentation. And yeah, so I will talk a little bit about our visualization studio that we started with my colleagues from TU Wien, where we were doing scientific visualization. So yeah, it's called Nanographics, and what we do is various things somewhere in between, like science, visualization, and art. And yeah, we try to communicate various complex topics. So this is like a picture that kind of represents in its core what we do, trying to show science in as most realistic way as possible, but always have some artistic element or something visually interesting in there to catch people's attention. So our main kind of audience of our work aren't usually scientists, but mainly general public. And yeah, so I'll start talking a little bit about myself, I suppose. So my kind of thing was that I always like to draw, and I was drawing a lot of digitally and usually like very silly things, nothing in particular. And then I kind of moved on to like traditional media, and it was always my kind of hobby. That was a thing, but I never wanted to study it. I wasn't very interested in studying that. I never landed on like a particular style or something. It was just very meditative for me, so that's why I kept doing that. But what I always had a huge fascination for was computer science and programming, and so that meant my kind of career path led me to study programming and particular computer graphics, where I could enjoy the all the technical aspects, but then I had some nice visual results that I could look at, and I could create various things that I didn't ever imagine that I would be able to create. So programming gave me this excitement about visual arts more than anything else, and yeah, that's why I went on to study computer graphics, and in particular scientific visualization, which was a field that I mean, there are many different topics that were covered there, but I kind of ended up with working with biologists, and we were kind of this whole path started when we had this one project with biologists from California, and they were working on like a structure of HIV virus, or discovering different parts of it. And there was this one particular professor, David Goodsell, who was drawing these viruses and different things in watercolor. And kind of goal of our collaboration was to use computers for generate pictures that would have similar artistic quality to them, and they would be as realistic as possible, representing things like viruses on a molecular level. And so we ended up developing this tool that was able to render many molecules in a real time, and it allowed us to show models of viruses interactively. So this is, for instance, this is one of the outputs of that software. It was like 10 years ago or so. This is the HIV model that our collaborators have created, and yeah, we were now able to render it in real time. And kind of the idea behind this whole thing was that you have these models that you can explore interactively on multiple scales. So looking at an entire virus particle and being able to zoom in all the way down to individual proteins, all the way to the atoms, so that you can tell different stories when explaining how these things work, or when explaining the science behind it. So this was kind of our job, our end. This is what I did my PhD in, creating software that allows to render these kind of things. It's completely different field now, 10 years later, but back then technical challenges were like how to render so many spheres in real time, and how to apply all these effects so that it looks a little bit more cinematic than just some very basic rendering, and so on. And so yeah, after creating the software as part of the research at the university, we started then Nanographics, which is like a visualization studio. And our kind of like a mission was to communicate science in an interesting and engaging way. And yeah, we did a lot of different things over the years, but our kind of core focus was always in biology. And we did, for some reason, a lot of stuff with viruses, since that's kind of where we started. And so here are some of the visualization that we did during the corona times of the coronavirus on different scales. So there is like, you could see how large a virus is in comparison to human hair, and how does it look like when the viruses or these variants kill a cell and kind of go to the whole environment around, and how does it look like when they cover the surface of a cell, and then finally the virus particles. So we always kind of focus on this multi-scale aspect of these things. And we're trying to always show as much detail as possible, but also as much content as possible, and having that all in kind of like the same visualization. As yeah, we often focus on these interactive things, but also sometimes we just make pictures, and it really depends on the client who needs what. But for majority of these biological or these molecular visualizations, we are still using the same software. I mean, of course, now way more advanced than it was 10 years ago, but it's still in its core the same software. And we are able to render these molecular scenes and create different stories with it. So yeah, this is like some examples of this coronavirus in its environment where it's attacking a cell. And yeah, here's a picture with some sketch that we did, you know, how to create the scene, and then we recreated it digitally with this software that we made. Yeah, we do also different things. You know, people ask us to do whatever. For instance, this was a project where we were visualizing microplastics and their sources and their ways into human body. So there's nothing to do with our original, you know, like we are programmers. The whole company, it's made out of a bunch of programmers. And we just happen to make a visual stuff. So we are not really visual artists, but yeah, sometimes we have to do that because that's what our clients want. So this project that had nothing to do with the programming is the whole just the Blender animation. Yeah, we sometimes do that, even though our core is developing software that can actually visualize things. But yeah, not always. So this was the microplastic animation. And yeah, so our part, like another part of our business is doing these exhibitions and presentations. So that's where we actually have to develop some software that does something, which is more what we are yeah, better equipped to do than creating animations and so on. And so this was one example, for instance, where we were working with our collaborators who published an article on the structure of the MPOX virion. And they wanted to have a detailed model which would be realistic to the point of their research. So all the knowledge that they gathered in their paper should be included in this model. And yeah, the model should be on the molecular level. So individual molecules forming this virion in the right concentrations and so on would be represented there. So in order to do this, I mean, we didn't do that manually, we did it procedurally, which means that we created a software that generates this model based on some mathematics and based on the data that we got from the scientists. And so we created a model of the MPOX virion, which we can now use for telling different stories. And we can show different things. We can show the components of the virion or virus particle, and we can also show how this virion works in a certain way. So here's, for instance, there is a kind of like a detail of the membrane, which had these interesting structures that were described in the paper, and then also the context of the virus particle again attacking the cell. And yeah, here I have to say, like, I'm talking a lot about biology, but I have no background in biology. I'm just a programmer. So this is an interesting part of my job, that whenever we want to create such a visualization, we have to work with the domain scientists a lot. They have to explain us everything like we were children. And so I can learn a lot of things that I wouldn't otherwise have a chance to learn, just to understand this topic well enough so that I can produce a visualization that is realistic and then the scientists would be happy with the result, and they can use it actually for various purposes, like explaining things. In this case, yeah, what are the components of the virion, and then we can zoom into individual ones and talk about them. And yeah, all of this is enabled by the fact that we have this software that can render these things in real time, so that we can attach it to some sort of controlling mechanism, so that people can use it in various ways, for instance, in the museums or during lectures, and use it as a kind of like a teaching material, not just the animation that runs somewhere in the background. Here's another project that we did with the same kind of like an idea, and it was about various processes, molecular processes that happen in a human body, and it was deployed on a touch table, a large touch table in a science center in Sweden, where the visitors could explore these processes on their own. Yeah, this is kind of like a short video showing. I mean, here it's just running on a small tablet, but yeah, it was originally designed for this large touch table, which would be accessible to the visitors of the science center. And there are like different points that you can learn about, and then you can also freely explore these 3D models or the 3D animations showing these various processes. And yeah, sometimes we also do research projects which are meant to help scientists to work with their data, and always connected to visualizing the data, of course. But yeah, here's an example of that. Again, it's this corona thing, and this is an electron microscopy scan of some virions, and we were again working with scientists who are producing these scans, and we developed a software for them that they can allow them to create models of what they observe themselves. So you don't need a specialist in scientific visualization. You just have a software, you have this kind of pipeline which allows you to create a very detailed molecular model based on your microscopy scan. So there was like the whole process, and I will not go into detail how that works because that's not very interesting for this discussion here. But the bottom line is that the software allows scientists without knowledge in computer graphics or similar fields to create models that are completely are very much true to their observations and also look nice, because that's always the important part for us, that there is this visual quality that would help the scientists to convey their results to the public in an engaging way. When you want to showcase your research, so that you can capture the attention of as many people as possible, and for that, this kind of like this cinematic quality, I think, is very important. And this was another example where we were working with this data, and we kind of like took it one step further and tried to just make a software that just creates these visualizations that are somehow aesthetically pleasing directly from the scan data. So what I just shown in this little animation, at the beginning, you can see how the data looks like when you just directly display them. It's very noisy, and of course, for scientists that's very interesting data. They can learn a lot from that, but you cannot really see anything. And so we made this reconstruction algorithm that removes all the noise, recreates the surfaces as nice as possible, but keeping it realistic. So we don't invent anything there. It's not a model. It's a rendering of a virus as it was scanned, but as clean as possible, ready for visualizing it. So this is kind of the software that we will be making most of the time, always trying to show scientific data in the nicest way possible. And yeah, sometimes we also make these videos. So there is a little video just showing some the results of our software, where you can see this 3D model that was created by the pipeline that I mentioned of the coronavirus on a molecular level, and through to the observations that this particular scientist made. And also then we can take the data directly and reconstruct the virus automatically. So nobody has to create a model. It's basically just a very nice way of rendering 3D tomography scans, so very noisy data. to make visualizations. So yeah, that's I guess that's kind of my thought.